What up? This is Reg Young, and I produce music, and this is how I make my mark.
All right, so what got you into producing?
What got me into producing, or
What got you into making beats? Like
what got me into making beats? Well, it's kind of a two-part question. I mean, I've loved music since I was like a small kid, but there were two albums in particular that kind of changed the game, if you will, for me. So I actually have them right here. First album when I was about 5 or 6 was this album right here. This is Sign of the Times by Prince. So so this was the album that made me want to do music. I didn't know how I was gonna do music because I couldn't sing and I was too young, didn't know how to play an instrument, but I knew that I wanted to be involved in music some way, somehow. But it wasn't until I heard The Chronic, everybody knows this album, I'm sure.
The classic
Album here. It was this album that made me want to produce music. So when I heard that record, it was the first time that I had heard something that really kind of resonated with me from a sonic standpoint. So, I would listen to this record and I would just try to figure out how he was making those things happen. And, that was pretty much the driving force behind my desire to make music.
Word. So, after listening to The Chronic and Prince, what made you take the jump and saying like, okay, now I have this want to make beats, but then when did you be like, okay, I know I can do this now? So like, what was the first piece of equipment that you made the first track on? If you remember your first beat, what did it sound like?
I remember all of that. I grew up on the south side, Inglewood, 61st and Green, and there was some guys. They were actually my brother's friends, so they were about maybe 4 or 5 years older than me. So they had this group, and they would go out to this guy's house that stayed out in Algill Gardens, and they would record or using his stuff, and this guy would make the beats, and they would bring the tapes home, and I would listen to them, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. Because I was rapping first, like I was a rapper. And
what was your rap name?
I'm not telling you. Not telling you. Whoever sees this interview, if they know me from back then, they'll probably like put it on my Facebook and try to embarrass me. But there was this song that they were writing, and I wanted to be on the song, and I wanted to make the beat. So they were like, all right, you can be on the song. So we ride out there to this guy's house in the gardens, and just got it set up in his bedroom. First time ever seeing some real equipment to actually make beats on. And he had an MPC 2000, and I want to say it was an ASR 10. I'm not sure if that keyboard he had was an ASR 10 though.
Still to this day looking for an ASR 10, man.
But I'm for sure he had an MPC 2000. So that was my first time actually seeing an MPC or anything used to make beats. I mean, before then, I was making little pause tapes. I had this little bitty $25 keyboard, and I had like 2 dual cassette boom boxes, and I would just take the tape and kind of program a little something on it, and then switch the tape, put in another tape, and make another pattern, and just kind of keep switching the tapes out until I had something. So I wouldn't call that my first beat though. So that night, they were like, well, make this beat and make it sound like this Bone song. And I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. And I fought with them because I wanted to make something that was original.
Right.
So they was like, all right, fuck it, make something original then. And I turned around and looked at the MPC, and I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, keep in mind, I had never seen an MPC before, let alone knew how to work one.
Right.
So now I'm looking at the guy like, so you gonna help me? So he kept telling me what to do and kind of showing me how to work the thing. And eventually I got something put together, and it took me about 3 hours. And at this point, all the homies is mad, want to take me outside for 5 minutes and kind of throw them hands on me. But I didn't care, man. Like, even then, and not knowing what I was doing, I still knew that I wanted to do something different from what was out there. So we made this song. It was called The Pit. And in retrospect, it was, it was kind of, my beat was kind of whack. So, I can't really say anything about the rapping. We all thought it was cold at the time. So, but the beat, I thought it was the dopest shit I had ever heard because I did it, right?
Right.
But in retrospect, it was pretty damn whack, to be honest.
Right.
So.
All right. So walk us through a little bit of your creation process with a beat going from start to finish.
Honestly, man, it depends on the day. Sometimes, if I'm out and about, I'll have an idea about something, like a melody in my head or something, or some drum patterns in my head, and then I'll come lay those down as soon as I can. Other times I'll hear something on the radio that'll spark an idea. If I'm listening to an oldie station and there's something that I want to sample, and if something jumps out at me, I'll try to find out the name of the song, run to the store and get it, or even jump on iTunes. Try to stay away from iTunes digging because I just I'm one of those type that I think that that's lazy, if you will. So I'll still go to the record store and I'll dig and try to get my hands dirty and find some obscure records, or if I know what I'm looking for, I'll go find that vinyl. If the quality of it is just not there, then I'll take it and grab it off iTunes, and just so I can have a clear copy of it. But initially I'll go dig for music and try to see what I can come up with. The fun part is grabbing a record that you don't know what's on it. So I'll just grab something. If the cover looks interesting, I'll just grab it, bring it home, and see what's on there. And if there's something I can use, and I'll use it. Other than that, man, it really depends. Like, anything that happens throughout the day can be inspiring. So it really, really depends on the day as far as where the creative process starts for me. So this is what's interesting about me, is I probably throw away more ideas than I keep, because just my mind is just that, it just works that much, So a lot of the stuff, like, I'll come up with maybe two or three ideas sometime, like in a day, if I'm really productive, and sometimes maybe one of them will stick. My most productive days, I've come up with maybe about 5 or 6, and maybe 4 will stick. So it really depends on the day and whatever is going on, and whatever inspires me on that day is pretty much how the process starts. But I'm a drummer by nature, so a lot of times it starts with the drums.
So what, without giving away any secret spots, man, what's some of your favorite places to dig?
Oh man, I don't care about giving away the secrets, man. I dig everywhere. My favorite place to dig is Hyde Park Records. My second favorite place to dig is Reckless.
Okay. Which Reckless?
The one downtown.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one up north that I've gone to a couple times as well. I think that's pretty dope.
Yes, sir.
What is it, Wicker Park?
Yes, in Wicker Park.
Yeah, I've been in there. That one is huge though.
Yeah.
And the one downtown is a little smaller. It's a little cramped.
Yeah.
But they tend to have things that the other one doesn't have from time to time. So I dig going to that one just because it's a little bit more quiet, a little less chaotic. I like to dig in peace without anybody bothering me, because I feel like that's my me time.
Right. No, I feel you.
Just kind of,
I feel you.
Just going in, digging for records, and that's me. That's my zone, if you will.
Word. So then, kind of getting into your production style, is there anything special that you do with your beats that you're a part of? Say, for example, with Dilla putting swing on the drums, and I know a lot of people are biting that now, but he was one of the first that was putting a lot of crazy swing on the drums. Is there anything that set you apart that you think that?
What sets me apart? You know what? I try to place a little bit more emphasis on the drums from time to time. So, you know, I'll layer a lot. I'll layer a lot and do a lot of EQing on my drums. And then I'll play with patterns. Like I'll test out maybe 2 or 3 different drum patterns on one beat just to see what sticks. You know, so I mean, you know, there's a track that I used for Fake Short Drive. Maybe I think it may have been a year and a half ago. There was probably 3 or 4 different drum tracks to that one joint. But the one that I ended up keeping was the one that stuck. And in that snare, there's probably 3 or 4 different sounds.
Okay.
So, you know, and each one was EQ'd to, you know, his own specifications and then kind of, you know, mixed together. So I think probably my drums is probably what sets me apart. So again, and I think that goes back to me being a drummer and just having that background, having taught myself drums when I was a kid. So it's always going to be the focal point. I feel like if my drums aren't right for that song, like they don't necessarily have to be like the most intricate drums, they just have to be right. And if they're not right, then I don't feel like the song is right. So that'll be the first thing that turns me off about a song is the drums. If the drums aren't right, or if there's a lack of drums where I feel like there should be, then you know I'll kind of feel a certain way about it.